want to welcome everybody to the forum for candidates for Minnesota House District 31B. Please take your seats now so we can start. I'm Karen Varian, member of the League of Women Voters, ABC, and a resident of Blaine. This forum is sponsored by the Anoka, Blaine, Coon Rapids Area League of Women Voters and the Ham Lake Area and East Bethel Chambers of Commerce. The League of Women Voters works to promote the active and informed participation of citizens in the voting process by conducting candidates forums such as this and by promoting voter registration drives for all eligible voters. The League does not endorse, support, or oppose any political party or candidate, but we do study issues of local, state, and national importance. The League is open to membership for men and women of all ages 16 or over, and we invite you to join us. You can visit our website at lwvabcmn.org for more information. And before it was said that we do meet at Andover, the Senior Citizens Hall in Andover on Mondays evenings. So please join us if you can. Okay, I'd like to welcome tonight the candidates for Minnesota House District 31B, Bahr and Sue Larson. Welcome. Candidates will now give their 1-minute opening statement, and then after that we'll take audience questions, and candidates will have up to 1 minute to respond. So go ahead with your opening statements. We'll start with Bahr.
First off, thanks for everybody coming this evening. It's nice to see people actually trying to make an informed decision before you go vote instead of just picking your favorite letter on the ballot. So I appreciate everybody coming out for that. The 2 years that I've been down at the State House, I've tried to be very, very respectful of your money. You earned it. I didn't earn it, so why should I spend it? I mean, I understand the state has certain obligations we need to make or need to pay for, but there's a lot of frugality there that should be, that's your decision to make a lot of those financial decisions. So I've been trying to be as respectful as possible with your tax money. I have a few other things that I've been working on over the interim, that off-budget cutting that I have staff working on getting the bills drafted together. That'll, over a 10-year period, will come up to just about $1 billion of your money that's confiscated from you that is not included on the budget number. It's just different fees and extortion money we've done that way. And that's just skimming the surface. It's just about half of the money we spend, the state spends, is off-budget money. So there's plenty of trim in there to give you back some of your money and a little more of your financial freedom.
Good evening. I'm Sue Larson. I grew up on a small family farm, active in church and in 4-H, all through growing up and 35 years as an adult leader. So I always focused on public speaking and demonstrating, believing in those, that anybody that can speak or demonstrate are going to go someplace in life. I served on the Isani City Council for 16 years when I lived up in Isani. I served on various county committees. I served on the board for the East Central Regional Planning Commission. And at state level, I served on the League of Minnesota Cities Board. I have the knowledge, and I need to do the work for our district. I have planning, economic marketing, and transportation experience. I'm married, I have 5 children, and I'm a small business owner with my husband.
Thank you. We'll now start with the audience questions. And first up is Sue Larson. The question is, what are your top three priorities if elected, and how do you prepare to address them? Sue, then Larson.
The top 3 priorities is education. I believe we need a good, solid education system. Number 2 is health care, which I firmly believe that we need insurance that covers pre-existing conditions. And the third one is transportation. Highway 65 is like an interstate, and we need to make sure that we get the work done on 65 to make it safe for the people, not only within our county, but also from surrounding counties that are using 65. We have a lot of traffic out there. It's like right in the heart of our district.
Bahr?
Okay, so 3 priorities if elected, right?
Correct.
Okay, so
And what would you do?
Okay, so one of them was, I've already mentioned, there's 3 different bills. And a combination of the 3 was Renewable Development Fund, snow bait, and the other one is energy mandates, that solar wind mandates that have driven the cost up as opposed to letting the market bring those technologies in. We're mandating it ahead of time. And it just ends up costing you a lot more money because these companies utility companies have to go on the market and buy what they call RECs. It's just fancy terms for buying credits from somewhere else, which drives your prices higher instead of allowing the market to bring these technologies on as they're cost effective. The transportation part of it was mentioned earlier this evening in, I believe, the Ham Lake one, whether it was the mayor or the city council. MnDOT is mandated to have we're doing a study, it'll be done in 19, that'll free up a lot of the 65 stuff, and one of the most important ones is ending the Metropolitan Council.
The next question is, how would you reform the House rules to make the legislative process more open and transparent to the public? And specifically talk about the omnibus bills and how they serve us or do not serve us well. And we'll start with Bahr.
Well, the last part of that was right. The omnibus bill does not serve us well. It's not necessarily the House rules. The House rules are actually reasonably well. There's a couple changes I would like to see. As far as the House rules go, there's a 24-hour rule, and then there's an 18-hour rule for offering amendments to any bill that's going to be on the floor. So if you see something comes on the floor and you should be able to offer an amendment to it right up until the final vote. And House rules preclude any amendments being offered within 24 hours after the bill has been 24 hours prior to the bill being calendared. So that takes a lot of the transparency away. Everything becomes more scripted at that point. And as far as the omnibus bills go, that's pretty much dictated by management. These bills get lumped together. They end up in a conference committee. There's only the handful of people in the conference committee that get to decide what's going in, what's getting pulled out. You may have voted for something on the floor, and now it's pulled back out of there or added back in the conference committee. So the omnibus bill does a huge disservice to the public.
Thank you. Sue Larson?
One of the first things I would like to see changed, I had visited down at the house multiple times, and what I really noticed is that when the voting took place, many of the people were not sitting at their desks, but yet people were running around pushing the buttons to vote. So one person may be putting in 8, 9 votes for a bill, and that just doesn't make sense to me. They handle things differently at the Senate, and I believe we need to move toward the way the Senate handles it and not vote for each other. If you're not at your desk, you don't vote, and that's it. As far as the omnibus bill, we have so many things that get tacked on. It's just not good management of what we could get done. You can't vote for something you want when there's something that you don't want, and you have to make concessions all the time.
Now we're going to get into some questions that are about specific issues. The first one is health care. What do you think is the best solution to provide high-quality, affordable health care for our citizens? And then what is your stance on single-payer health care and why? Sue Larson's first.
Well, first off, as an LPN, I could never be for insurance that doesn't cover pre-existing conditions. I have talked to so many senior citizens that are scared to death of what's happening with their Medicare, what the costs are going to be, what the co-pays are going to be, just what's happening. And then young families, they say they cannot stretch their dollars anymore, and I believe them. It's a hard issue. We need to address it. And basically, it is an issue that touches everyone in Minnesota. So down at the state, we're going to have to do some work to make sure that Minnesota stays on top with health care. It's important for us to stay on top. I truly believe that we can make differences with health care if we just put our heads together, work across the aisles, and come up with solutions.
Thank you. Cal Bahr?
There's no way I can answer all of that in 1 minute, so I could go about 5-6 minutes on each of those 3 parts, but I'll try and make it a little more succinct. So single payer, no, period, end of story. I don't believe in single payer health care because I don't believe that I should enslave you or tell you you are going to work for me at this specific rate. That is a form of enslavement and entrapment when I can't dictate what I'm going to charge for the service that I provide. You don't go to your mason and say, hey, you're going to come and put a sidewalk in my front yard and this is what I'm going to pay you. That's not the way this works. So no, I do not believe in single payer health care because that's what that will amount to. The insurance part of this, the best way to bring down prices is going to be something akin to what Oklahoma has. In Oklahoma City, there's one hospital, it's called Surgery Centers of Oklahoma. They accept no insurance of any kind. Cash only is the only thing they accept. On the front page, you go to their website, Surgery Centers of Oklahoma, on the front page, you can go right down the list. Front page, it's not hidden anywhere, it's the first spot. You pick the procedure you want done, there's your price. That's all inclusive, doctor, Band-Aids, room, board, the whole everything, all rolled into one. And then the last piece is the reinsurance pool, which we used to have with MSHA here in the state, is how you would handle the pre-existing conditions.
Thank you. You did pretty good there, though. You got a lot in.
Squeeze.
Okay, take a breath here because you're going to be the first to respond to this question. What's more important to you, state tax cuts for the wealthy or spending on education, transportation, and health care?
It's an interesting question that we can only have tax cuts for the wealthy as opposed to education, health, and welfare. So the way that the question's phrased is a pretty interesting way to start. So tax cuts for everybody. Yeah, I mean, you can't give a tax break to somebody that didn't pay any taxes. So the wealthy pay us the largest percentage of taxes. So if you're going to have any kind of a tax cut, obviously the wealthy are probably going to get the most dollars. So the education, welfare, and what was the other piece in there?
Education, transportation, and health care.
And health care, not welfare. Okay, health care. So part of this is the state has become the health care part of this is actually the largest piece of our state budget. It's almost 40%, just shy of 40% of the entire state budget. So when you can start introducing some of the market forces that I talked about earlier and pulling the people who have the pre-existing conditions off into a separate pool, and we take care of that like we used to 8.5 years ago at the state, so we didn't have anybody who was falling through the cracks. When we do that, it allows for all of the other costs to come down, and then we can start going back, and there's another piece that I can get into here, but I've already passed down to there's my stop sign. So yes, there's a few more pieces that would actually pull people out of there that are not eligible for all the benefits that they're receiving.
Thank you. Sue Larson?
What do we want? Do we want a good education system? Are we going to pay for it? We have to if we want it. Do you want good roads and bridges? How are we going to pay for it? We have to pay for it if we're going to get it repaired or built. Healthcare. How are we going to take care of the people in our state? No matter who they are, how are we going to provide good health care for them? Are we just going to let the rich pay for what they can have and the rest of us be without? No, there needs to be some sort of way that we can pay for each of those 3 areas. And if each of us pitch in a little bit, then we'll have those systems. If it's important to us, we'll have those systems and we will pay for them.
Thank you. Now, the next question is another tax question, but I think it's going to be a little shorter. And it is, do you support eliminating the tax on Social Security benefits? And we'll start with Sue Larson.
Most of the people I know don't pay any taxes on their Social Security. They get their Social Security check. They may have some Medicare taken out of it, insurance taken out of it, but they don't have taxes taken out of their Social Security check. If you have a job, whether it's when you get Social Security or not, you pay taxes. It's just what we do in order to support the whole system. Taxes are part of our life. Now, we all would like to pay no taxes. I'd love it if we had no taxes. But things have got to be paid for somehow, in some way. And each of you know this.
Thank you. Bahr?
Okay, so the tax on Social Security, so if you've saved your entire life or you have a union pension and when you retire and you add your Social Security benefits on there, that may trip you into a higher tax bracket. This is where we get the tax on the Social Security from. So eliminating the tax on Social Security would make that a block exemption, just like you have your standard deduction now. So eliminating the tax on Social Security, that would be eliminated from any taxing. So the short answer to this is yes. And we can't afford that because as of right now, yesterday the state MMB came out with the actual tax receipts that have been collected, and we're running a $629 million surplus since the February forecasts that came out. So from February to now, we've already overtaxed you by $629 million.
Thank you. Now we're going on to the area of education. I'm going to try to put a couple of questions together here, so I hope they don't get too long. But basically, what are your thoughts on the current status of education in Minnesota, and what do you plan to work to keep the same or to change? And then along with that, could you address whether you support school vouchers or not, and why?
School vouchers, yes. Why? Because it offers the individuals more choice of where you're going to send your children to be educated. You get to decide what the right place is to send your kids, not some faceless, nameless bureaucrat, or because there's a certain line drawn on a map, that's where you need to go. So that's why I support vouchers. As far as education goes, one of the biggest things that we need to do is change not necessarily the legislative approach, but the bureaucratic approach. I have teachers come in and show me, I had the last week of session, I had a music teacher brought up pictures of his music room, his classroom, brings pictures, this room is just totally destroyed. So what happened? MDE policy dictates if you have one misbehaving child, you can't touch the child, you can't, escort them out of the room. You need to take all of the behaving children out of the room and let the misbehaving child in the room and let them throw their temper tantrum. So this temper tantrum is thrown, completely destroys all of his musical equipment. And these are the kind of policies that come down from MDE, not from the legislature, and that's what needs to be changed.
Sue Larson?
We have a great educational system. We don't always have all the helpers in the classrooms that we need. But we have pre-K through college. And we have a university that's known for its research. This is an advantage for Minnesota as we're looking at drawing more business in. Education means a lot. I have served on community ed up in Isani for 16 years. I serve on the Cambridge campus and the Coon Rapids campus Anoka Ramsey College Advisory Board. We have worked with Cambridge High School with the welding department because they no longer teach welding. But now, through Anoka Ramsey, they are teaching welding. And this helps our workforce. We have educated people now to do welding jobs. This is something that is so near and dear to my heart. You know, we need more partnerships like that to help make our educational system work better.
Thank you. The next question is about gun control. Would you support sensible gun control measures, universal background checks, ban on all assault-type weapons? Sue Larson, you're first.
I would like to see universal background checks. I never want to see teachers carrying guns in school. I believe that's not a message that we want to send to the kids. I want to see us handle this gun situation in a uniform way that teaches safety. 4-H has even got gun safety. You know, we need to expand that. And universal background checks, it's a must. With all the mental illness things that you hear about nowadays, it's a no-brainer. Do the background checks, be safer.
Thank you. Bahr?
No.
Okay. Next question. Hope this one's just as simple. What can we do to make public agencies like schools and hospitals safe? And should teachers be armed? If yes, what criteria should be used?
Okay. Part of the safety feature in this, you can never be 100% safe. You can walk out, get in your car, go to work, and somebody T-bones you and you die. A lot of this is the same thing. We're trying to eliminate every possibility of ever being hurt. It's not going to happen. You can't do that. So we need to be as conscientious as possible around us for every situation, not just in a public place, but in a schools or anything else. One of the reasons that we end up with these shootings in schools or hospitals, they're gun-free zones. Criminals know they can go there and there won't be anybody to shoot back at them until 4 or 5 minutes down the road when the cops show up, or if you happen to have an armed security guard that may come in there. And yes, all right, 15 seconds. So yes, last session I was a co-author and a happy co-author to allow teachers the choice. If they wanted to be armed in school, it was their choice, not mandating it. If they wanted to, and there was certain extra criteria they had to meet to fulfill extra training to get that special permit to carry in school.
Thank you. Sue Larson?
No, we don't need guns in school. Absolutely not. We need to teach the safety of guns. We need to promote education around guns. We need to use things like we have been doing and making our entrances more safe. Have you tried to go visit a school lately? What does it take to get in there? You're probably even going to have to swipe your driver's license. And you're certainly not going to get by without an office visit. Another good way of handling it is school resource officers. And how many schools have lost their resource officers because of lack of budget money? But we need to keep resource officers. They're actually good. They develop relationships with these kids, and these kids are more willing to talk to them about what's going on. So that's how we need to combat school safety.
Thank you. The next question is, why should we have a Met Council? What are the benefits and what are the negatives? And first up is Sue Larson.
Well, I believe the Met Council has its place. You know, they are known nationally and internationally for their planning. And we need some type of metropolitan planning. It's not to say that everything has to be sewer and water. They can do a lot of other things. We need to have land use, matching land use as the metropolitan area spreads out. Now, I rather like living in Ham Lake. Moved down here and I thought, oh, wonderful, no water and sewer bills. And I like the larger lot. And I know they don't have anything to do with Met Council. And I know people think that East Bethel was sort of funny for even trying to get involved with the Met Council. But look at the infrastructure they're getting along Highway 65. They're going to be able to build out along Highway 65, and all those businesses are going to be able to benefit, and that's what's important.
Bahr?
I don't think the Metropolitan Council even needs to exist. Yes, it's true that they have won national and international awards, and it's always for their water and sewer management. The water and sewer management can be handled with a joint powers agreement between the counties that it serves. The bike trails and park systems that they operate can be handled by the counties or the cities that those parks and trails are wholly contained within. The housing element that they operate now should be put back under the administration of HHS, or Health and Human Services, and the transportation part should have been and should go back to being a private bus system. We have some private bus systems now. MVA is a private owned with a subsidy from the state, but this all needs to go back to being private bus and train system.
Thank you. I'm going to have a couple more questions before your closing, and this next one I hope you can make short, and that's cannabis legalization. Are you for it or against it? And Bahr, you're first.
That's one of those interesting questions. I don't have a problem with cannabis being legal myself, but there's a few problems that have gone around this because the federal government has interceded in places where they're not supposed to be. We never granted jurisdiction to the federal government to regulate drugs of any kind, what we call illegal drugs, or Schedule 1, Schedule 2, or Schedule 3 substances now. They were never granted that authority. So we've seen states like Colorado and Washington legalize cannabis use. And what it's led to is a problem in the banking system, because as soon as these the dispensaries open, you go in, and if you buy something, as soon as that money is deposited in the checking account of the business owner, the federal government confiscates the money because they say it's illegal to sell this stuff, even though the state has said it's legal. So you still end up with a black market. Everything is cash, nothing is taxed, nothing is regulated, and it still has created a problem because the central government has stepped in where they shouldn't be. So this whole piece needs to be completely looked at and rearranged and how it's handled.
Thank you. Sue Larson?
I don't have a problem with it. But now let's talk about research and development. Isn't it important that we continue that? I mean, you look at the medical uses for cannabis now. It's amazing what we come up with technology, and that research is so important. It's benefiting so many people with diseases. It's just unreal. So I'm not against it, and I see the benefits of especially the places that sell it for medicinal uses and treating diseases. I think it's very important to us.
Thank you. Want to get in at least one question here on the environment. And that question is, what is your position on green energy, clean water and air, and how should the state of Minnesota move forward on these topics? Sue Larson.
I believe that clean energy is the way of the future. No matter what we do, we need to watch what's happening with climate change. For one thing, some people say, there's no climate change, but there is. And emissions coming off of our fuels that are used. We need to be careful with this. We only have so much air. What's happening to our groundwater? We need to be careful. We want drinking water, don't we? You know, there's so many things with clean energy that are vital, even down to transportation. With all the research that's been done in new ways, electric cars and such, you know, it's amazing what's been happening. And did you know your utility companies are working toward clean solutions? It's important to keep in contact with them and know what they're up to. Thank you.
Cal Bahr?
Okay, that's another one of those 10-minute questions, huh? So I want to finish with the cannabis thing. We all have heard about the opioid crisis. Cannabis is a non-addictive alternative. So that's something else that needs to be taken into account when we talk about marijuana legalization or cannabis legalization. Now, to get to the energy part, every one of us wants clean water. We all want clean air. It's how we get there is the part of the thing. So yesterday I was reading a really interesting article. We're talking about solar and wind, which are great alternatives, but they're not quite. The piece that's always been missing is the storage part, because the wind doesn't always blow, the sun doesn't always shine, we get snow on our solar panels, et cetera, et cetera. So that's the storage part has always been the piece that's been missing. So yesterday I read this wonderful article, Australia, Elon Musk, I'm sure we've all heard of him, the Tesla guy. Went down to Australia, he and one other guy got together, they built a battery down in Australia. It came in $2 million under budget. They came in, or it was 2 months under time and under budget on a storage battery, and it was 2 weeks after it went online, the thing actually worked. When the fossil fuel backup generators were supposed to kick in and failed, this battery system came online and worked. So it is coming, it is here, and that's one of the biggest things for the clean water and clean energy that is coming to market now.
Thank you. This is going to be the last question. Generally, I ask something that's a little bit general, but there's been such great audience questions here. I want to get in one more of those as a last question. And so that is, what would you do to address the needs of skilled labor shortage? And Cal Bahr, you're first.
The skilled labor shortage is a product of government intervention in our education system. We have been, for the last couple of decades, we have been pushing everybody to go to college, go to college, go to college. So 50% of our high school graduates are now on a college path. 25% of the jobs in the country require a college education. So half the kids go to college, end up with a big bill because they went to college and they don't have a job that fits their degree path. So this is where government intervention got in the way, and how it steered us into this problem that we have today. So how do we get back out of this is start to rescind all of the government regulations and mandates and stop trying to tell people where they need to go and offer them more options. Bring in, as Sue had mentioned earlier, I think it's a wonderful thing where the high schools and the tech schools and businesses all work together, where a auto mechanic, a welder, any of these shops can come into a high school, teach the kids the skills, and put them to work, so when they graduate, they have a good paying job and they're ready to be part of society immediately.
Sue Larson.
Workforce readiness is really what we're talking about. And right now, we have so many labor jobs that are crying for help, but we don't have the skilled labor for them. So, like I said, you know, I work with the advisory boards for both the Cambridge campus and the Coon Rapids campus. And did you know that the Anoka Tech School is part of that also? The tech school is working great with the college, looking to meet the needs of our employers. The businesses coming in, they're able to find out if there's going to be a skilled workforce, because that's one of the keys to having a business move, is to have a skilled workforce, to have the cultural and social amenities, and housing. It all goes together.
All right, now it's time for your 1-minute closing statement, and we'll start with Sue Larson.
Thank you for this opportunity to share my thoughts with you. I believe in families, they really do matter. I believe in sharing and assisting others in life situations. I believe that I can make a difference while representing you, the people. Support for our business is important to the quality of life here in Anoka. I can use my experiences to help make critical decisions. I believe in working hard and researching information. I hope to have informative conversations with citizens before voting is done on all bills. I will work across the aisle to come to workable solutions for the people of Anoka County. It's really important to me to see that Anoka County has what it needs, and one of the things that seems to be a high priority is the businesses. They want businesses to come in. They want businesses to just basically thrive. They want the businesses existing to be able to make it.
Thank you. Bahr.
Thank you. Once again, thanks everybody for coming this evening. It's been an interesting, 10-minute questions and you got 30 seconds. Go. Listen fast. So thank you for coming. Sue and I both agree where we want to end up. It's how we get there. She wants to use the government to help facilitate the path. I believe you can facilitate the path better than the government can. I think you will always make better decisions about your life than any government ever will. I believe that Mayor Van Kirk, if he's still here, he's the only one I heard allude to this earlier tonight. You don't own your property. And the property tax is an evil, evil, evil entity. You pay off the bank. You think you own your property? Try not paying proper homage to the government for 3 years and see where you end up. You don't own anything, and that's the cornerstone of freedom and liberty is property ownership, and it should start with your home. So how we fund the cities and the counties and everybody else and the schools that are all using property taxes as their funding source is going to have to be revisited, but you need to be able to own your home and not have to pay a user fee to the central government or the local government so that you can keep your home. It should be a title, it's yours, and you should be able to keep it without having to pay continually for it.
All right, this concludes the Minnesota House 31B portion of the forums tonight.